Are we on the verge of Apple's next event? Well, I can't make Craig Federighi drop a big old yes, so just use your imagination, but yes, we are now heading into February, which means we are possibly just 1 month away from an Apple March event, and it could kick us off into the most exciting Apple release season yet, with reports swirling that Apple is ready to launch more products this year than ever before. So what can we expect to see at this March event as Tim Cook strolls onto the stage with that California tan and that welcoming
"Good morning"?
Well, I think there's a very good chance we can see a few new products around this event, and it will all start off with the lower cost iPhone SE 5G edition. And you don't have to get too creative to really understand what this product is going to be. The iPhone SE is Apple's lowest price phone at $400, and it achieves this by using an older design that harkens back to the design of the iPhone 8. This serves as a dual purpose, as Apple is able to not only offer a product they've been manufacturing for years to achieve a lower cost, but it also actually serves as a phone option for users who still just want the traditional home button design with Touch ID, and for those that don't want to learn the new gesture-based system found on newer iPhones. I don't know who those people are that aren't willing to learn those gesture-based systems, because I think it's pretty easy, and I think at this point we kind of got to rip the band-aid off and get on this new train of learning new technology and new ways to interact with things. But there are people out there who like the home button, and hey, I respect it. I actually don't respect it. So for this iPhone SE 3 or iPhone SE 5G, Apple plans to keep that current design, and the only real upgrades here is obviously Apple adding 5G capabilities to this phone, making it the cheapest 5G cellular phone in their lineup, and by giving it a little bit of a speed boost by giving it the same A15 chip that is found in the latest iPhone 14. And that's about it. Now, Apple could do a couple of things to make this phone a little more exciting than just that, and that to me means software features, most notably in the camera department with better computational photography features to make this camera better, and by adding some of the exclusive software camera features found in the iPhone 14, like photographic styles and the new cinematic video mode, which are tied up into the processing power of that A15 chip. So it is possible we could see that make its way to the iPhone SE 5G edition, but if some of those technologies are based on camera sensor or maybe some depth mapping system with like 2 lenses, there's a possibility we won't see that on the iPhone SE, obviously, because it's still just using 1 camera lens, and currently there's no rumors that Apple's actually changing up the hardware of the camera, but I'm holding out hope that we could see better computational photography and some of those software features, because I really feel like they just need to add something more here at this $400 price point to offer even greater value for this phone. Of course, one product we can expect for sure at this Apple event, well, not for sure, I don't want to give you like a 100% chance, there's always a possibility it won't be there, but I really think the writing is on the wall that it is time for a new iPad Air update. Yes, the iPad Air, out of almost any other Apple product, is in desperate need of an update. And that's not to say necessarily that the iPad Air is a bad product, but when you compare this iPad against every other one in the lineup, it is actually missing features from cheaper iPads, like the iPad mini and the regular iPad. So from the iPad mini standpoint, it's actually more powerful than the full-size iPad because it has an A15 chip and it costs less money. It's $100 cheaper and more powerful and smaller. Those things kind of don't mix up. The bigger product here should be more powerful, especially when it's also $100 more expensive. And the Mini can also get 5G connectivity as an additional option, while the iPad Air is still just limited to LTE. So I think it's pretty obvious what Apple needs to change here. We need to take that iPad Air, take that A14 chip out, and put in a 15 chip in it, take that front-facing camera out and put in a front-facing camera with the center stage feature, and also add 5G connectivity. Now, that doesn't mean that those will be the only additions to the iPad Air, although it's kind of likely that will be the only updates to the Air, as nothing else is really rumored. But I do look at the iPad Air and that $600 price point, I think it's a little bit awkward, because right now we have iPad Pros on the high-end spectrum that have the mini LED display. Now that's only the 12.9 inch currently, but there are rumors that Apple is going to add mini LED display technology to the 11-inch iPad Pro this year. So if that is true, if the 11-inch iPad Pro gets mini LED and it's like $200 or $300 more than this iPad Air, I feel like the screen technology gap between these two products is really just going to get really wide, like a little too wide to kind of recommend the iPad Air still. And I really feel like a way that Apple could alleviate this is not giving the iPad Air mini LED, but by giving it the faster 120 Hz ProMotion refresh rate. And when you combine that screen technology with the regular LCD screen it has now, I think that would be a good compromise and a good premium feature to add at that $600 price point, because I really feel like you are paying a lot of money for this iPad and it should come with a bit more than it currently does. Of course, smaller things can change with the Air 2. Now, I'm not expecting like a new design. I think it will have the same body, but hey, maybe we can expect some new color options for the iPad Air. Whenever Apple releases a new product, it's always nice to get a couple new color options, make it look fresh, make it look brand new, even if the design hasn't changed at all. And again, no design change for this because the current third-party or first-party and third-party accessories like the Magic Keyboard and some of the keyboard covers fit both the iPad Air and the 11-inch iPad Pro. So I imagine that Apple doesn't want to change any of that. They want to keep that accessory compatibility. All right, so there is one other product that I think is a guarantee at this March event, but like all good Apple event seasons, it seems that Tim Cook threw us a little bit of a curveball at the end of this rumor season. And that curveball comes in the form of the iMac Pro. Now, I just made a video on this detailing all the specs and features that the iMac Pro will come with, and while I do still think those features are relevant, the iMac Pro may be a little bit delayed. And that's because we just got a report out from Ross Young, who is a display analyst, so he gets all the information from the supply chain and manufacturing line about displays. And one of the new features that was going to be put into this new iMac Pro was a new mini LED display. It's one of the things that I was really excited for. And according to Ross Young, who again does have an excellent track record when it comes down to the dates and timings of these Apple releases, because he knows when they're able to pump out and manufacture those displays, he is now saying that those iMac panels have kind of slipped, and they're not expecting those to be done until around the second quarter of this year, sometime around June. So that might actually push this iMac announcement back to June, and maybe alongside the Mac Pro announcement at WWDC. And, I think Apple probably wanted to hit the spring timeframe because I think they probably want to give all the attention to the Mac Pro. But if they're going to announce two desktops at WWDC, the iMac Pro makes sense there as well. So they're probably not too torn up about it. They want to get those mini LED components. I've seen some other theories on Twitter that maybe there's going to be another just bigger version of the 24-inch iMac. So we'll have like a 24-inch and a 27-inch iMac, and then the iMac Pro will be at WWDC. But I don't feel that way. I feel like the bigger iMac is going to get the M1 Pro and M1 Max chips. And I feel like, it's called M1 Pro, so the naming writes itself for iMac Pro. And I just think that this is a product that, we're facing a lot of supply chain disruptions. I think this is one of the products that, unfortunately, is just a casualty of that. It's just going to be a little bit pushed out about 3 months from when it was supposed to be announced. And it's sad for me because that was the product I was probably the most excited to see at this Apple March event like a few months ago when I was doing some reporting on it. So as of now, I guess we are not expecting an iMac Pro. There's always hope it might come out, and I did a video on it detailing all the specs, so I'll link it up here if you want to see it. I think those specs are still relevant, but Ross Young has just been so accurate, I'm going to have to defer to him that this thing is being pushed back. But don't worry, there is another computer, the Mac Mini. Now, This was reported on by Mark Gurman a little while back that the Mac Mini would be coming out very shortly after the MacBook Pro. And that is something that I have tried to detail in my report videos about what does that mean? What does it mean like to be quickly announced after the MacBook Pro? Apparently quickly means a few months. And this makes sense to me that we will still see a Mac Mini because this is a product that doesn't really require something as advanced as a mini LED display that could be kind of caught up and face some of these supply chain issues. The Mac Mini appears to be a very simple product to manufacture if Apple is keeping a lot of the same philosophies going with the Mac Mini design. Now, I know John Prosser said that the Mac Mini was going to get a new design with a plexiglass top and maybe a two-tone finish, but even that seems pretty simple for Apple to work out. And honestly, I feel like Apple could just slap an M1 Pro or an M1 Max chip in the existing Mac Mini body, and I think it would work out pretty well. But let's just say it has the new design. That doesn't sound too complicated to manufacture. And the concept of the Mac Mini is pretty simple, right? It's an aluminum closure, and it has no mouse, it has no keyboard, it has no display. So something that's very easy to manufacture, something that Apple can take the existing M1 Pro and the M1 Max chips and put that inside of the Mac Mini. Those chips inside of that little machine would be absolutely perfect, especially that M1 Max machine. Traditionally, when you look at Mac Mini computers, they have always been great little computers to start out with, great little production machines, but one of the areas where they really fell short and areas where I had a hard time recommending them was in the graphics department. These things always shipped with anemic integrated GPUs, and the last Intel Mac Mini in particular just shipped with a really bad integrated GPU. You could basically not do any gaming on it, not do really any advanced graphical stuff with it, to the point where, you know, Apple advertised buying an external GPU alongside of it, and like you look at this big external GPU next to this Mac Mini, and they're advertising it. It's like, why even bother getting the Mac Mini when you got to connect it to this giant GPU that's almost as big as like a desktop PC? So these new chips, the M1 Pro and the M1 Max, will boost the capabilities of this Mac Mini significantly, not only giving it an incredible CPU, but this Mac Mini in terms of GPU power, it is going to be the most powerful Mac Mini in terms of GPU power very easily, and this is going to be a machine where you used to have compromises, a tremendous amount of compromises, a really big weak point in that area, and that is going to be fixed thanks to Apple Silicon. So besides that, with this Mac Mini, I would also expect a lot more ports for desktop users. You know, current rumors, or I guess renders by Ian, gives this around 4 Thunderbolt USB-C ports, Thunderbolt 4 USB-C ports, I should say, and maybe 2 USB-A, an HDMI port, obviously, because people are going to want to connect this with their own monitors, a hardwired Ethernet port. I think that would go better on servers than putting the Ethernet port in the power brick. And I think an SD card slot, I feel like it's on the MacBook Pros. I know these renders don't show it, but I just feel like if they put it on the MacBook Pro, why not add it to the Mac Mini? That would be a great port to have alongside there. So the main advantage of this Mac Mini is obviously it's going to be smaller, it's going to have a ton of ports, it's going to be powerful, and I think the price point is really going to be the thing that attracts a lot of users to buy this, where maybe traditionally they would have bought a more expensive or more powerful iMac, or even something like the Mac Pro. I really think this Mac Mini is going to steal a lot of those customers away to this cheaper price point. Now, I don't think it's going to be like super cheap. Like the M1 Mac Mini, I think is still going to probably be like the best value desktop for a Mac. That's like $699. This one I would expect to be more expensive. I'm guessing around $1,300. And that's because with these M1 Pro chips, they do have to come, it seems, defaultly with some pretty good specifications. So if we look at the current MacBook Pro with an M1 Pro chip, it is tied up with 512 gigabytes of starting storage and 16 gigabytes of memory. You can't buy an M1 Pro machine without 16 gigabytes of memory. And then, of course, on the M1 Pro, you can go up to 32, and on the Max, you can go up to 64. So with that being said, I feel like 512 gigabytes of storage and 16 gigabytes of memory with an M1 Pro chip, Mac Mini Pro we'll call it, And I feel like that is going to be around a $1,300 starting price when you consider that the Intel Mac Mini launched at $1,099, and when it launched, it just came with 256 gigabytes of storage and 8 gigabytes of memory. So yes, while we may not be getting an iMac Pro at this event, and while that may be disappointing, we should still be getting our first Pro Mac desktop with Apple Silicon at this event, and I guess that is cause to be excited alone because I am looking for some sort of desktop machine with these Pro level chips. But let me know in the comments below, are you disappointed that, possibly the iMac Pro won't be at this event? Or were you actually looking forward to getting a Mac Mini, and does this kind of change your buying plans? Or were you not interested in any of these products and you're actually looking forward to getting something like an iPhone SE with 5G? Or are maybe you in the market for that new iPad Air? Those are all possibilities, right? So hopefully this video was informative. I think we're about 1 month away. Possibly, if there's more delays, maybe in April, but I really feel like we're getting an event sometime soon, and I am really happy to be entering Apple event season again. So if you found this video informative, give me a like. If you want to see more from the channel, make sure you're subscribed. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone. Oh, iMac, it's not coming out. Oh, what am I gonna do? Did you turn that off?